Hi, everybody. My name is Lisa Ward, and I'm here with Musicplay, and I'm going to be your moderator this afternoon. Today we have Michelle Rock Price with us, and she's going to share how we can help our students through cross-curricular instruction through music. So, Michelle, we're delighted to have you. Please take it away.
So as she said, Michelle Rock Price. I set up today's Zoom as on my list, and I can share that link after. But I have a little bit about my background, how I got to doing this, um, how I incorporate literature into the music class and the ELA standards, looking at composing, how it relates to fractions, and how we can use vocabulary from other subjects, even when we're just giving directions, reminders, etc. to the students. So I have been teaching for 30 years. I came across Musicplay during COVID. They were having some problems streaming with the summer workshop, and they had moved to Facebook Live, and I happened to catch it on there and fell in love with it and realized I already had some of Denise Gagne's materials in my classrooms. I'd seen her present. I am currently in Orlando, but I met Artie Almeida back in Connecticut, so I was already, seeing the two of them on there and very excited. I did graduate with a bachelor's of science in music ed at Western Connecticut, and I did a master of science in elementary ed at Southern Connecticut in 2002, where the challenge was, how can I take what I was doing for my classes, but use it not to make more work, but to actually use it to plan lessons that I could teach in my music classroom. I spent 14 years in Connecticut, in New Haven, at Title I schools, including one of Connecticut's hot schools, which is an arts-based curriculum. We were the hub, not the specials team, not electives, but the hub, and we had to connect with everything else that was going on. So I really got comfortable there with cross-curricular. I moved to Florida. I got tired. We were just talking about the cold and that deadness of winter. So I took off to Florida, where I worked in Broward County, which is Fort Lauderdale, Dade County, which is Miami. I'm currently in West Palm Beach. 14 years at Renaissance Charter School. We are the highest performing Title I school in Florida. 86% of our students live in poverty. That's why we're Title I. We get extra money from the government to help service those students, which mostly provides some extra teachers and some free tutorials. My students, more than half of them are first generation born in the US, or they themselves moved here in their lifetime. The majority are from the Caribbean. Haiti, Jamaica, and Bahamas are probably the three most represented countries. And then we do have a lot of students who are Hispanic as well. All right. So when I was becoming a music teacher, my grandmother was running a home daycare. My mother was running a home daycare. And I quickly learned about Raffi. Did not grow up listening to him. I heard he's really big in Canada, but not for me growing up. But my grandmother had a lot of his books. And I remember showing my youngest kids, there's how you know this is a song when you go to the library. You can find his books at the library. And what I saw when I started using Musicplay is a lot of his songs are on Musicplay because they are such great traditional songs. Coming off of the Halloween here, we have Them Bones is another one that I love doing with the kids. And we have a lot who, for religious reasons, can't do Halloween per se. But I tell them it's not a Halloween book, it's a science book. We're going to learn about the skeleton. And it does have on each page of the book, it has a little bit about the actual names of the bones, where you can read that to the kids. And it is on YouTube and animated on YouTube as well. One that I fell in love with early on in my career is a folk song Pete Seeger had recorded. Don't Laugh at Me. Peter, Paul, and Mary actually recorded it together. And they took it for an anti-bullying project that was big around the United States. and they brought it into the schools and summer camps. So don't laugh at me. It is on YouTube again. There's a nice animated version of it that I've been using for at least 10 years. But it is an anti-bullying book. It talks about how kids are made fun of for glasses, braces, being slow in class. And if you know the original parts of it are changed, like with my middle schoolers, I do show them. I'm a single teenage mother that was taken out of this one that's made for elementary kids. Um, I would illustrate it different. Some of my kids ask about the character style artwork, but we talk about that and I challenge them to make their own. And now with AI, I think some of them are trying to. Another area that I like to explore is literature books for sound effects. And I'm pretty sure most of you know Mortimer. And there's a lot of walking up and down the stairs. And it's a great way to teach melodic direction on the Orff instruments. That's another one. I did Thunder Trucks is a lesser known book once, which is about a thunderstorm. And again, it gets into the science behind a thunderstorm. But it's called Thunder Trucks and it was published by Disney Hyperion Books. Another one that I did Friday, I had music club on Halloween at 3:30 after school. And I actually had about 12 kindergarten and first graders mesmerized playing instruments along with the little old ladies not afraid of anything. And she's getting followed home by some shoes that go clomp clomp, and they chose instruments. And they've got the hands wiggling, so we get an opportunity to use some of our shakers. And the shirt shaking, so then it's like, well, we already used the bells for that. What else can we use? And I think they chose maracas this time, but I let the kids choose, especially with only 12 of them. Gloves that clap and hat that nods. But that one tends to be a lot of fun. A lot of times the kindergarten teachers do it with them in school. And I say, well, we're going to do it different because we get to play instruments. And then they're absolutely excited. Vocal exploration at an Orff workshop, I learned Yo Yes by Chris Rashka. And you just have yo, yes, hey, who. And it goes back and forth with them having a conversation that ends up with having a new friend. But you have the really outgoing, boisterous, and the really quiet, shy one. And we talk about how we tell a story with few words, but they get to explore how are we going to say that? How are we going to read it? And giving different kids a chance to say different lines. Another one that I've never seen in a music workshop, but was in a free book bin that was donated to our school, was Roller Coaster. And I pair this with some vocal explorations where we do the roller coaster with our voice and going down and high and making a shape and giving different students a chance to be the leader and show us which way they want our voice to go. So I usually read the book and then give them a chance to make some roller coasters with their voices. All right, now I'm going to move into a lot of things that are on Musicplay. So on Musicplay, they have going on a bear hunt. So I'll just play a little bit of it. Is that better?
It's great.
Okay.
Have to go through it.
Have to go through it.
I'm going on a bear hunt.
Going on a bear hunt.
Gonna catch a big one.
Gonna catch a big one.
I'm not scared.
I'm not scared.
What a beautiful day.
What a beautiful day.
All right. So usually I'll teach this one day and then I will take out this There we go. I can take out this book, which is We're Going on a Lion Hunt, adapted by Marjorie Kohler and illustrated by Joe Matu. I'd never heard it as a bear before until I saw it on Musicplay, but I do that with them one day, and then being able to compare and contrast is a very high critical thinking skill. And so being able to take the two books, they do have a lot of the same types of things, even if the words are different. So for the kids, even in kindergarten and first grade, oh, well, that one was a bear and this one was a lion. And that one, they were walking through the grass. And this one also has them going through the grass. And we take a look at how we see some of the same things and some of the things that are different. And of course, very early on in my teaching career, I learned apples and bananas, and learned it as the vowel song. So I don't call it apples and bananas. I call it, we're going to do our vowel sound song. And it goes through changing. So you have apples and bananas, and then you have eeples and bananas and eeples and bananas, but we just change the vowel sound. So being cross curricular, I just make sure I'm pointing out what's already there. There's nothing I'm doing different as far as teaching music, because that was the big thing when I was at these underperforming Title I schools, and they're like, we want you to teach ELA instead of music, we want you to teach ELA instead of math. And I was, no, these kids need music, but I can teach music and still hit some of those same standards. It's just being aware of what those standards are. So if you've never heard it, I can't sing right now. I'm having all kinds of gook in my throat, and made it through middle school chorus today. And then my throat kind of was like, that's enough. This one's apples and bananas.
I like to eat apples and bananas.
I'll skip to where it gets to some of the vowels.
I like to eat apples and bananas.
And I like that it shows
I like to eat
the different ways that it could, you have the double E's there, so the kids can see that vowel sound that they'll come across when they're reading.
apples and bananas.
Okay, and so that's a lot with the ELA standards. And of course, my kindergarten, my first grade teachers, they're always big at telling me, oh, we're doing rhymes today. We started doing rhyming words. And they know that I don't have to go out of my way. Almost every song that we do with the little ones, there's rhyming words in it. So just making sure that we give the kids a chance to practice that skill. And of course, this one starts off with our, where we know dock and clock. One and down is a stretch, so I just kind of skip over that. But when we get to two, and the cat said boo, the kids can see. And again, it doesn't have to be spelled the same, but you can hear the same sound. And it's just making sure we're hitting on that for the ELA teacher. And it only takes a second to say, oh, did you find the rhymes? What are the rhymes? And it also helps the students with the songs you're trying to memorize when they're aware of the rhyme scheme. I know this one was in, so I teach my students 1 week at a time. I have 5 rotations, but I'll see the same group all week. And then next week, those same kids will go to PE and I'll get a new crop of kids. So there's 5 rotations. So I don't follow the modules per se, but I do look at what was being introduced in the time that I'd have that whole 5-week rotation. And I know Betty Martin was one that was recent. And what I do different to be cross-curricular, when we do this, a lot of times as a music teacher, we talk about, what is our locomotor skill? How are they going to move? But I just use the vocabulary. Hey, we need a verb. Can you create a verb? What action can Betty Martin do? So instead of just locomotor, she might be swimming, or some of them do the jumping and the dancing comes out. But for those who aren't familiar with it, so that's the original. And they change it to Hey Betty Martin, swim, 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 or jump, 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 jump. And it's just that one verb and that they get to. And we're also Kagan, which means we do a lot of student led groups. So where the students are already seating in my classroom, I have them in teams of 4. And in a lot of the classrooms, if I have to push in, like next week, the book fair takes over my room. So I go on a cart just for the week. So when they're in these teams of 4, they each get a chance to think of a verb, and then we have the simultaneous share, whereas 6 groups in my room, most of my classes are about 24. Some are 30. That's always fun. And the kids simultaneously share. So each team has one person, the number ones in that team present. Then the number 2s get to do it their way. It's a little bit crazy at times, and I don't get to see everybody, but everybody gets to share their idea. So everyone gets a chance to practice their verbs. And sometimes the kids, you'll hear them, that's not a verb, but they're correcting each other. So it's not on me to remind them what a verb is. If they start arguing, then I can intervene. This has always been one of my favorites. And it's another one that Rafi does, and he has the book for it. And I've done it where I had the kids each write a verse, and then I turned it into a little book. We had the old spiral binding machine, and I made it for the kids to each have a copy with their classmates in it. And Down by the Bay, just a little bit of it.
Down by the bay, where the watermelons grow, back to my home, I dare not go, for if I do, my mother would say, did you ever see a goose kissing a moose down by the bay?
And if I skip, you have the whale with a polka dotted tail. So that students can, again, we're practicing those rhyming words, but we're taking it a step further, because now we're going to create our own lyrics. And again, I often do this in the groups of 4. And with the lower level first graders, I might just have the kids make one verse as a group. With my advanced, because each grade level has an advanced class with the gifted kids and the kids who just score higher on ELA, I let them all write their own, and then they can share them in their groups. But right from Music Play, you can see, did you ever see a blank, 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 blank down by the bay? But I give them a little bit more. So did you ever see, okay, we need a noun. What's a noun? But you're going to need another word that rhymes with that noun. So we do get a lot of bat, cat, rat, the at family. They're very good at using the at family. So sometimes you have to stretch them. Can you come up with one that's not the at family? So then you have your noun in the beginning and you have your noun at the end, but you're going to need a verb or sometimes an adjective that goes in the middle. So we talk about syllables and making the pattern match. So that one is one that the kids love. And even my middle schoolers, they're so unpredictable today. And they're 6th, 7th, and 8th. And some of the 8th graders have been with me since kindergarten. And today they asked if they could sing the song. I guess I had this open on the board when they walked in, like, oh, can we do that? So you never know. I used Witch's Cat, but there's also, I believe, the Old Gray Cat is another version. I think it is on Music Play. I was at a thing about forging the future and how students today don't get enough movement, and we want to keep trying to reach our students in other ways. They spend so much time online. And they were talking about the need to move. And one of the presenters actually happened to be a former music teacher. So she was my favorite. And so she, is talking about getting the kids up. She's at what's called a wish school, where they use wellness and innovation, science and health. And the kids learn through STEM stations and a lot of other things that's not necessarily traditional in how we went to school and what we learned. But with Witch's Cat or the Old Gray Cat, we talk about story characteristics. You know, the kindergarten, first grade, they always talk about the characters, the setting, what's going on, what happened first, what happened second, then what. And I love that in the original module, Denise did have where they got a chance to act it out. And that is my students' favorite thing to do with this song is when I tell them, because she wrote it during COVID when we couldn't necessarily do a lot of singing, but getting to act out the songs the kids loved. And when I was teaching during COVID, I was hybrid. So I had half my students in school and half my students at home using an owl camera where you could see the whole classroom. You could see what the students were doing on the Zoom. So the kids loved watching each other and then using that spotlight feature to kind of give the kids at home a chance for the class to see what they were doing too. And it was just a super fun activity. But the cat is sleeping, then the mice are playing, and then the mice eat. The cat wakes up, and the cat is chasing them. Chasing, I make sure I remind them they have to stay in their spot. We're not allowed to run around the music room. While I do have a big room, I'm always scared of them running into the keyboard or into some of the drums. There's a lot of stuff when you teach K-8 in the room. This one I just did recently. I happen to have CJ was a man in Connecticut. I guess the mother of CJ had reached out to Raffi and tried to get him to put together just certain books into one collection, certain songs into one collection. And when he didn't, she had her son do it, and his name was CJ. But CJ Fundamentals, I have these big books. But I'm learning that if I don't show the kids the pictures, once we could, because I started teaching without technology at all other than a record player and a CD player. And when I was teaching the kids, they had to use their imaginations more. And I think that's one of the things our students are losing is that ability to imagine without seeing. So the other day I didn't show them the slides. I had them listen to the story. And then I gave them the challenge of drawing me a picture of the story. So they had to pay attention, and I brought home a couple of them that I had candy. So if you don't know, on top of spaghetti, I lost my poor meatball when somebody sneezed, and the meatball rolls out the door and into a garden, and it grows into a meatball tree. So there are her meatballs. And apparently when you ask them to draw, that is what one kid draws. This one's not, the light's not catching it as good. They all draw. So I have about 20 meatball tree pictures hanging up in my classroom, and everyone who walks in is probably like, what are they doing? And that's where on this one I had to put the little sticky note that says illustrating a song on top of spaghetti. So when my admin comes in, they see, I'm incorporating art into that lesson as well as ELA, drawing a picture of what you heard. So on top of spaghetti is one I do that with. Aiken drum is another one that I do that with. And so the man lives in the moon, and his hair is made of spaghetti, and he's got pizza on there. There's a whole bunch of different food ones you can.
There was a man lived in the moon, in the moon, in the moon. There was a man lived in the moon, and his name was Aiken Drum. And he played upon the
Oh, this
sticks,
one does it different. That's
sticks.
right. I didn't have it in my slideshow originally because the Musicplay one has him playing instruments. But they say like his nose is made out of cheese. There it is. His hair is made of spaghetti. So it's a little bit different on Musicplay than the way I learned it originally. But it does go into his hair is made of spaghetti, and his nose was made of cheese. His eyes are made of meatballs. The drums and the sticks, that's the Musicplay change. His mouth was made of pizza. So when the kids have to pay attention to the details and then getting to draw Aiken drum, how they think. As soon as you show them a picture, though, they draw what they see instead of what they saw with their mind's eye. We talk about our mind's eye. All right, these got a little bit out of order when I was modifying it today. This was another one. the kids asked when they saw it on the board today. They were like, "Ooh, can we do that?" And they love Pizza Hut. We talk about proper nouns. So again, I don't know who on here is familiar with what. So just playing a little bit of it, but it starts off, the music play version has it first as one section, and then they do it as a round.
Pizza Hut, a Pizza Hut, a Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Pizza Hut.
Of course, there's the motions. So we have the Pizza Hut, the chicken, back to the Pizza Hut. So there's your arches. And then it goes into singing it as a round. So we talk about proper nouns and how proper nouns, their name's a proper noun, and what are the proper nouns in this song. So we spend a few minutes reviewing proper nouns. So then when you ask them to create their own version, they just need to come up with those proper nouns. And we start with using their favorite restaurants. So give me the names of your favorite restaurant. And again, if they're in the groups of 4, then you've got 4 to chain together. And some of them try to use the melody of this, and others just go in a different direction. I'm not specific because they're creating their own version of a song about, in this case, restaurants. We've done it with other things, with shoes. You can give the kids just about any topic, flowers. And oftentimes we then do it as a rondo where you have a song that's the A section, and then the B section is this group gets to show theirs to the class. The C section gets to do theirs to the class. And we do a lot of performing it as a rondo. All right. This one I do very different than it is on Musicplay. I think this is one of my favorite songs to do at Halloween time. When I've worked in schools where we weren't allowed to do Halloween, I just saved it for the end of the year and did in the last couple weeks of school, I did ghost stories. I've always used it for teaching it as a story song. What are the characters? And it's just an old woman, and then someone or something in the closet at the end. We talk about the setting, and we talk about the sequence of events. What I add that's not on here are the dynamics, and a big retardando at the end. So it's getting I used to do it in second. Musicplay has it in third, so I've been doing it in third now. With the dynamics and the retardando, you're getting that music vocabulary. And we do it with the goal to scare the teacher. So I make the students, I'm like, okay, I'm going to turn off the lights because I really want you guys to be calm and settle. I can't sing very loud. And then I start off singing the song. And as I'm singing, I get quieter and quieter. And then she opens the closet, and then you yell boo. And just about every class, I can make the majority of them jump. So we talk about jump scare and how that's our goal. And in order to jump scare the teacher, you have to have complete buy-in because one kid can screw it up. And usually that goal of being able to scare their teacher is a very, very effective motivator. When I was going to school to be a music teacher, they talked a lot about the intrinsic motivation instead of rewarding them with stickers and stuff. And I do a combination. But this one, that is the goal. If we all learn the song and we can do the dynamics right, and we can make that retardando at the end, which just raises the anticipation level, then we can sing it for your teacher when she picks you up. So it's absolutely a favorite. It's a minute long. They don't do the dynamics we end up like at pianissimo.
An old woman, all skin and bones. Ooh. She lived down by the old graveyard. One night she thought she'd take a walk.
So I put the retardato on the she opened the door right there. I make it as slow as I possibly can. And that really makes the kids and then even the teachers just like kind of lean in. And then when you shout that boo at the fortissimo, then that's when you make them jump. So the kids have to really work hard at getting pianissimo down, and then that's suddenly loud. So that one is a lot of fun. And like I said, it's, we think of it with Halloween, with the graveyard and all that, but I've done it in May at the schools that didn't let us do Halloween. The lollipop tree is one that I was super excited to find on Musicplay when I started using Musicplay. I grew up with the Magic Garden, which was on TV, and it was Carol and Paula, and they sang beautiful, beautiful two-part harmony songs all the time. And it's probably one of the places where I fell in love. They had the guitar, and one played the guitar, and they sang duets all the time. And they had different elements on the show, but the music is what jumped out at me. And I remember the episode with Lollipop Tree. I remember being 8 years old and going outside near my swing set and trying to plant the lollipop stick, thinking that I could grow my own lollipop tree, just like it does in the song. So it is another one that does fall into that story song category where you can talk about setting and the first person point of view, because they always say it's a girl because the picture is of a girl, but it never actually states that. That's just suggestion from the pictures.
One fine day in early spring, I played a funny trick. Out in the yard behind my house, I planted a lollipop stick. And every day I watered it well and watched it carefully. I hoped one day that stick would grow to be a lollipop tree. Oh, ha, 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 ho, 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 what a place to be. Under my lollipop, 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 lolly, lolly, lollipop tree. Then one day I woke to find a very lovely sight. A tree all full of lollipops had grown in the dead of night. I sat beneath that wonderful tree and looked up with a grin. And when I opened up my mouth, a lollipop dropped right in. Oh, ha, 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 ho, 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 what a place to be. Under my lollipop, 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 lolly, lolly, lollipop tree. Winter came and days grew cold, as winter days will do. And on my tree, my lovely tree, not one little lollipop grew. From every branch an icicle hung, the limbs were bare as bones. But when I broke those icicles off, they turned into ice cream cones. Oh, ha, 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 ho, 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 what a place to be. Under my lollipop, 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 lolly, lolly, lollipop tree. Under my lollipop, 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 lolly, lolly, lollipop tree.
So yes, that was always one of my favorite songs, even as a young child. So there, we can talk about how the tree changes during the seasons. So you've got the science element with the seasons. You've got the ELA with the story it's telling. And then again, you can incorporate the art with challenging them to create their own illustrations that go with each one of the verses. So you have the musical content with talking about the verses and the chorus. I do have somewhere another part that goes on the chorus. So we usually do chorus A, chorus B, and then end with the two of the themes together. The other one was written by Vivian Murray, who did my ORF training. But the kids love that too. And I just have to find it in my old ORF notebook. So Lollipop Tree. Of course, we look at things like the kids will point out, oh, there's alliteration. John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt is the first one that jumps into head. And again, it's another song that even I remember doing it 40 years ago at my grandmother's house. And I tell the kids these exact same stories. Like I teach this song because it was one that brought me such joy even as a kid. And I tell them the stories about marching around my grandmother's house, making all my cousins follow me. And I was apparently teaching music my whole life because I have 6 younger cousins. All right, so that's kind of the ELA component. And then one of the things that I absolutely love, I was teaching in New Haven, Connecticut at a school that had a tradition of a giant May Day festival. And it had just grown astronomically. The person who was in that position before me, just rumor has it that she would take off the next week because she needed to recuperate because it was such a big deal. And when I started at that school, the principal liked having this big celebration, but some of our parents were a little bit hesitant with May Day. We had some Jehovah's Witnesses, and to them, May Day worships the maypole. So we wanted to keep the maypole as one component, but the principal had challenged me, how can we change this to be more inclusive? So at that school, I did World Day. I had a lot of staff members and parents from other countries, and they started teaching me songs. Now, all of this is before YouTube. All of this is when I was just relying on a combination of cassettes and CDs and even some records to learn the pronunciations. And I was very worried about saying things wrong. And it was much, much harder back then. So I tried to get somebody who knew it to teach it to me first. Nowadays, I'm much more confident singing in other languages because one, I have more experience, but two, they're just about all of these popular songs from other countries can be found on YouTube and often pronunciation guides as well. I was super excited when I found Eyes the Buy on here because my family, my dad was born in Maine. His dad lived on the Canadian border way up on 95. I'm down on the south end in 95, but my grandpa lived, if you missed his exit, you saw Welcome to Canada. And so getting to learn a song that was from near where my family was from. My grandfather's brother lived in Nova Scotia. So I did have family that lived there before they moved to the United States. So it was like, oh, yeah, because my kids are always asking me about my culture. So that's one that I can share with them, that my grandfather did know. Che Che Kool-Aid is one that we did at World Day at this school. During the day, my middle schoolers were a Leader in Me school. So my middle schoolers picked children's songs and games from around the world. So a lot of them that grew up with me doing Musicplay do remember the singing games from Musicplay and do ask to teach those to the younger kids. And some of them pick more games that you'd play at recess or PE that don't necessarily involve music. And I let them teach what they want to. The idea is just to get all these kids outside during their normal specials time. So we have 5 classes, 5 specials teachers. So each of us sees a different first grade at the same time. So we bring all 5 classes outside. And I have about 10 to 15 games out there, and the kids, kindergarten and first, we don't let them pick the games. They stay as a group. So we do this teacher's girls and this teacher's boys. And they have a middle schooler who walks them from one activity to the next. But with 2nd grade through 5th grade, we let them pick the games they want to play. And I kind of keep track of which games are most popular. In the following year, I recommend those to that child that's struggling to pick a game. Like I show them what's been successful. And Che Che Kool-Aid, when we do it in my classroom, Denise has it as a running game at the end. I didn't learn it that way, but she has where they kind of freeze for a second, and then the leader gets to chase the kids. So they've seen it in my class, but I've never let them play it that way with the running. So when they get to do it outside, they're very excited about playing chase. I don't know if this is just the, yeah, this one's just the words. So on Coom, they freeze, and we do it as call and response with the whole thing. This one only has the first line once, but I learned the whole thing as call and an echo song. So they do it that way, and the leader who's leading the call ends up moving and chasing the other kids to pick the next person to be it. Of course, being that so many of my students are from the Caribbean, they get very, very excited anytime there's anything. So the steel drum comes in with it's a holiday. And even my Jamaican teachers, because we have a lot of them, even my Jamaican teachers, when they hear it's a holiday, you can see them if I'm teaching in their classrooms. They start dancing around a little bit. It's an infectious beat, and you can hear the steel drum in that. And then this gives a little bit of background information. It goes into getting the kids to play along, and then it gives the background information. There's also on Musicplay in the modules where Miss Gagne had asked a man who teaches a little bit further north, about an hour north of me. He did steel drum band with the high school group, and he has the video where he shows the kids in more detail about the steel drum, where he's actually got the camera right there inside the steel drum. So he has that video there too that I've shown the kids. It's a little bit long, so you have to kind of judge, whereas this one's just, a minute and 26 seconds. So sometimes with the other video, it's, I think, between 5 and 10. It's a little bit too long for them. But even just getting them to hear the steel drum band play, and he has both, I think, his students and then a group in Trinidad playing. Sakuras in Japanese, and it's about the cherry blossoms. It was in Get America Singing Again, which was very popular in my early years teaching. But I learned with Japanese. I had a friend, Colleen Casey Nelson in Connecticut, who spent some time in Japan, and she came back to our ORF chapter and taught us a whole bunch of stuff from Japan. And she taught me that the vowels, they're all pure vowels. What you're seeing is how it's pronounced, and it's real easy. And this past week, Sunday to Tuesday, I was in Orlando at a workshop for Charter Schools USA, and our principal decided we all had a $59 budget for meals, and most of our meals were provided, but not dinner that night. So we decided we were all going to the hibachi, and there was something with sakura on the menu. And my coworker was driving me nuts because she kept calling it sakura. And the person waiting on us kept saying sakura, and she kept saying sakura. And I was just like, oh my goodness. But I thought that was just funny that, and I had already included it in this in this list anyway. But yeah, that one. And we talk about the cherry blossoms. My fifth graders, they go to Washington, D.C. in the spring, and the cherry blossoms are all blossoming there. That came as a gift from Japan. So the kids get to make that connection between what they're learning in music class, what they're seeing in Washington, D.C., and then the little bit of history behind it. So another one that I've done for World Day is Chequi Morena. And I always have one or two students in each class that do speak Spanish as their first language. Um, and I did work at a two-way bilingual school in New Haven for a while. So I'm pretty confident with my Spanish now, with reading it, singing in it, pronouncing it, not necessarily conversing. But I'll always say to that child who's sometimes they're new to our country, and I'll look at them, am I saying it right? And the kids, they'll sometimes correct me if they have a different pronunciation. And we talk about how there's different dialects from the different Spanish speaking countries. But Chequi Marina is just about a girl they're telling her to dance, and it's from Puerto Rico.
Chequi morena, chequi, chequi morena fue. ¿Dónde está ese ritmo, caramba, del maricumbe?
And then it has that rondo where they're getting to create. So the kids love doing that.
Chequi morena, chequi, chequi morena fue. ¿Dónde está ese ritmo, caramba, del maricumbe?
And then again, so the kids get to take turns with making up the part and their classmates cheering them on. Makuai, I talk about the connection with Moana and Lilo and Stitch, and how even though they're fiction, they are based on some real history and culture. And then there's a video link in Musicplay to the Polynesian Cultural Center. But if you look up Polynesian Cultural Center on YouTube, you'll see there's a lot more than just the video that was included in the module. My science teacher was very excited about this one last week because the kids told her when they knew the word nocturnal, and then she was like, "Oh, you guys remembered that from last time I saw them 5 weeks ago?" And they were like, "No, Miss Rock taught it to us again last week." So when the kids fill in, bats are active at night. What do you call that? Nocturnal. And then bats use echolocation to see in the dark. Well, what's echolocation? But you're getting that music practice in of no identification, but you're able to link it to the science, as a quick review. They
Just
love
letting
with
you
the,
know, Michelle, we have about 10 minutes left.
yeah, I'm trying to speed up.
No, you're doing great.
Okay. So we have Mozart, and all of them, that shows them when they were born. When did they die? They always ask, are they still alive? Well, let's think about that. If he was born in 1756, so this is the year he died. And then depending upon the greater age of the kids, we figure out how old were they. There's Earth Day. So how can we be better stewards of the earth? There's at least one or two songs in every single grade level, because during COVID, I took, and each class from their room did a song. We saw them the whole quarter that time. So each grade level did a different song, and then they were able to zoom in and watch each other. It was a very interesting way to do a show, but it worked. The composer series, I used to have these DVDs back in the day, and somebody created for Musicplay all of these. And I put down, I like to use activity 4, short answer, activity 6, activity 12. So if you scroll through short answers, you're getting that recall, the ELA comprehension. Comparing and contrasting, what was it like then, what's it like now? And then interesting facts. So they're having to summarize. They study poetry and form starting in second grade. So getting to do that AAB form using the blues is fun for them. We get a lot of homework and no recess blues. My ELA teachers with the little ones, they love when they come in and they see us clapping the syllables. To them, we're clapping syllables. To us, we're teaching quarter notes and eighth notes. But the kids are getting that there's a correlation. So if you've never seen these, they're in a lot of the songs. This one happens to have the rest. Not all of them do. But the kids, it doesn't tell them if they're right or the wrong. So you as the teacher have to check. But it's there, and then you do the double birds. The next slide is the actual rhythms. And I did have second graders today sight read a TT Ta song. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but they were sight reading it. I did not sing it with them. I did not sing it for them. I challenged them. It was so in me, and they did it on the first try. And I was like, they are getting it. Denise has these with the drum, shaker. And I took some pictures today where I have the 4 hearts. I have 4 different colored popsicle sticks, and each child in that group gets 3 the same color, and they can use ta or they can choose TT. With the kids that need a challenge, they can leave it blank for a rest. There's another sample. Oh, wrong way. I also took her vegetables. I know she did them with what she had available at home, but I brought these, and they're 2. I brought home my pear. So I have where they're sticky, and I give the team captain 2 different ones, a 1-syllable and a 2-syllable. And then they give one to the person behind them. And then they have what's called the shoulder partner. So they each take it apart, give one to a shoulder partner. Okay, now everyone has to put theirs on one of the hearts. And this one was lemon grape. When it's their turn, they get to move 2 of them. I went the wrong way again. Lemon, grape. So they can move 2 things. And they each get a turn to do that. And we do okay, let's say it and clap it, and let's audiate and clap it. And yes, I teach the word audiate even to my little ones. I have arties. You can't be great if you don't audiate, hanging up in my room. And before they do the stick notation, I use this type of one where it is sticks, so they can see that that's ta and TT, because I realized I was showing them with the actual music notes, with the real quarter notes and eighth notes with the note heads, and they weren't making the connection. But once I started using this one first that day, they were getting the connection. And then we extend it, being able to. And I'm very conscious of, even with the little ones, we use half notes, we use quarter notes. I use that vocabulary so that the kids hear it. And then there is the Halloween creative writing. I usually do the Halloween one, but I've done way before I was using Musicplay, where we wrote a story about elves in a workshop and the kids use their own instruments. When I'm teaching, I use little things like, take out your cylindrical wood block, or take out your rectangular wood block. Oh, we need something that's a triangle for this song. The 4th graders are studying sound energy. There's too much sound energy in this room right now. Can you help me cut it back? We do parallel sticks don't make noise. Perpendicular sticks often do. So we're very conscious about using that. We talk about the friction. Apparently, here's the other one. We talk about the friction and how friction is creating sound energy. And then my recorder's here somewhere. I've just misplaced it. But I talk about, with the recorder, we hold it at an acute angle. And it's like every time you can use somebody else's subject matter's vocabulary, you're triggering the neurons in the brain to oh yeah, I learned that word somewhere else. And I'm usually giving some kind of a demonstration about how I use it. I know I just did the last couple minutes really fast, and I can't find where I had that in my slides. I seem to have lost it, but it was in my slides. I can put it back in there. So I'm going to share this in the chat. I don't know how you get that on to the YouTube one. But there's my list in case you wanted to go back and use any of these materials in your classroom. If you're even if you're not on Musicplay, it's it will bring you to this list. All right, now I'm ready for any questions.
All right. I just shared that link onto YouTube for you.
Okay, thanks.
So again, if anybody has any questions, please pop them here into the chat. Michelle, this is really interesting. I mean, when you look at the correlations of how many of these songs, and be it language, be it even math, like the way that these can work back and forth is really helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Does anybody have any questions for us? Well, we are winding this up too, just so everybody knows, there will be a webinar next week as well. This is going to be with Joyce Hollaboff, and it's called On with the Show, Ideas for Assemblies, Concerts, and Special Days webinar. And then there is one on the 19th of November as well with Stacy Werner, and it's exploring music genres through project-based learning. So couple more things coming up. All right, well, Michelle, doesn't look like there are any questions in here, so we can wrap this up. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
No, I just encourage people to, think about what you're doing and how can that support your colleagues. And, I'm always trying to get them to understand we're all in this together and we don't get tested. They do, and they seem to think that makes them more important. But every school I've ever worked at, their grades gone up. We grade our schools in the United States, and my school's been an A school. And the one I was in Connecticut, they had what was called safe harbor. When they weren't performing well, they got to safe harbor. And then they're always trying to improve. And I really believe that the stuff I do in music class helps pull it up. And I know that other people can do that too.
Well, there's a comment here from one of our listeners says, it's so interesting viewing this as a new teacher or as a new music teacher. I used to teach the general classroom, and seeing the connections can really impact my school. Also, she is from Nova Scotia.
There we go.
So that's very cool. So right across to the other side of the country here. All right, well, thank you so much, Michelle, and everybody for tuning in. And of course, this will be available for people to watch later on. So have a wonderful evening, and thanks for being here.
Thank you.